So in terms of time, a quick time check, we have close to 12, 13 minutes left for the panel. Then we have half an hour for the audience to ask questions and seek clarification and give your views. So I have few questions for the panel members or reinforce some of the key messages. Arif well said the concept of integration. I was reading a lot of research papers on concept of integration. So one of the questions asked to many CEOs, does HR add value to business? So there was 36,000 CEOs and business leaders was interviewed by Corporate Leadership Council, and they come to the conclusion that yes, HR add value to business subject to three things it fulfills. The first one, they said the integration has to happen vertically. That means HR process has to be vertically integrated to organizational goals and strategy. Second one is it has to be horizontally integrated with all the sub-process in HR. We have centers of excellence and HR business partners, it has to be integrated. Then last one, not the least one, HR process has to be contextualized. For example, Six Sigma is a context to G. A lot of companies tried to imitate it, they failed. TQM and TPS is context to Toyota. A lot of companies tried to imitate it, they failed it because it's contextualized to that culture. So your remark is apt. And if you can give some of the, you said early part of your career in GE, you find it, some of the digitization effort failed because it didn't integrate it. So can you show some light on how today GE processes are horizontally and vertically integrated using technology?
So I think, Srikanth, what really happened when we started going down the path of digitization was, we were one of the first companies which was looking at doing something like this. We didn't know. It was something which we went into early 2000, 2001, looking at solutions, and not only in HR, but across functions, across segments. Also being conscious of the fact we were largely an industrial company. So we didn't know. But as we went through the process, we learned. And today, if I look at the entire spectrum, we have ensured that our database is the same. So the entire data is housed at the same place on Oracle. HR from an HR standpoint is the backbone of the entire systems. And all systems are built on that. So whether you're looking at employee information, files, or any of that stuff, you're looking at performance management system, you're looking at career planning, succession planning tools, looking at compensation planning, looking at entire history of incentive compensation plan and all that. What we have done, which is very effective, is while all of that information is there, we have made sure that we have understood what roles different individuals have, what kind of accesses they would need. So what kind of information is needed for an HR manager? What kind of information is needed for a line manager? What as an employee I would need, so information on my benefits and all of that. And to take it to the next level, it's no more now a place for individuals to get information. We have built in a lot of analytics. So as an HR person, I can do a lot of analysis, and all of that information is right available for me, whether it's on attrition, whether it's on trends around demographics and linking it back to attrition and some of those things, learning opportunities, and really seeing that data, one, it's integrated, it's at one place, but at the same time helps me in taking decisions, and decision right on the click, because I can quickly analyze, look at the entire information and take decisions based on it.
Okay, thank you. Murthy, you rightly said, the speed model is excellent. It really summarizes the technology strategy of a firm. You mentioned in terms of edge and the E part and P part is drive cost efficiency. But if you really look at HR world, depending on the industry, 60% to 65% of the revenue is people cost. The industry I come from, or most of you come from, technology organization, 60 to 65% of cost is people cost. In my organization, 65% of these people cost. Then when I was working in Britannia, 3.5% is people cost. Balance is material cost, wheat, sugar, and everything. So we are always on a cost control pressure. In Britannia also 3.5. My boss evaluated with the Parley, and he said Parley is 2.75 and you have to reduce to 2.75. So how do you calibrate cost and use technology to reduce cost and get further efficiency? More important, the question to you is, more important from my experience is equally the value dimension. Like Ravi also mentioned earlier, is in terms of the value like culture, the intangible assets like skills, leadership, discretionary efforts, employee engagement, I think plays a greater role, and HR business partners and HR community need to drive that. So how technology can help us to drive value in an organization, and if you can share from your experience, it will be great. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think no matter which industry we talk about, like you said, Srikanth, I think people cost is tangible and significant. And I think in a country like India, inflation and the wage expectations would only keep it going higher and higher. So I think from a value perspective, again, going by the conventional techniques, you can look at the productivity of employees, however you measure the tangible contribution of employees. And you could also look at, most of the Indian economy, if you really look at putting it, contextualizing it in India, you look at India teams being very good in terms of execution and offering productivity or cost arbitrage to the developed countries. So you look at innovation, and innovation could manifest in different types of tangible value, whether it is innovation for the employer, or it is the innovation for the client, or the customer, or the market. So when you create that, and technology is an enabler for innovation. So once you know, you will be able to run a bunch of experiments. You can go as simple as, even if you are in an industrial company, for example, if you were to be creating prototypes or products, which used to be a costly proposition, way back when the technology was not as evolved. And today, if you apply technology, probably such prototyping or such development and such experimentation becomes that much more effective and cost efficient. So I would apply technology in terms of deriving tangible value, in terms of fostering innovation and making employees productive. Even if you are in a service industry, you're able to scale. You're able to do that many more things, that much more efficiently applying technology. So I would apply, it's much akin to computerization. When I remember when Indian Railways was looking at computerizing, they felt, hey, this computerization is going to eliminate jobs or is not going to be an easy thing for training and what have you. But in the grand scheme of things, people could even see, could only realize that the jobs could be done much more smartly, and hence there is so much more to do and so much more to cater to. So I think I look at value, the good word that you used, in terms of in multiple different ways you could apply in different dimensions. I would say innovation and productivity, to summarize.
Okay, great, thank you. Ravi, I think your concept of sensing and gaming or playlist to drive the learning path and everything is fantastic. From my experience, little, and from the reading a lot of literature and best practice from Google and everything, I categorize the work on gaming and sensing and everything into 3 areas. One is how do you create a content, and there are a lot of market for content, and there is a lot of market for platform. Some of the technologies are around platform, some of the technologies are around content, and some of the technologies are around algorithm. You create a right algorithm, and our friend Suraj also mentioned, in order to do content, platform, and algorithm, we want competent HR professionals. So what is your take on, how do you do this content, platform, and algorithm when you create sensing and gaming, and how do you develop the HR competencies, and how do you create a community to do that?
I think it has to be a sort of, should HR learn these things, or should HR co-opt these things and work with it? For example, in HR analytics, we are trying to teach analytics to HR people. To me, it's a misnomer. Analytics, if you go to predictive analytics, is a super specialized area. It's better that I co-opt the analytics into the HR community rather than trying to force my HR to do that. So the view I am adopting, looking at the practicality of implementation, because this year we, partially use social technologies in our performance appraisal, is to use people who are comfortable with those concept of technologies to bring it to the play of that generation. Because 80% of my workforce is Gen Y. So if I want to get them excited about performance appraisal, apart from the question of promotion and increment, which makes actually one of the irony of this process is, it's one process we have been running for 30 years, which pisses off 95% of the people in the company at the end of it, and we are very proud about that process. I don't think except 5% of the people, everyone is unhappy after performance appraisal. So can we use those expertise of those generation and those technologies to create a differentiation? So like one of the differentiation these youngsters came up with is, where is the right to feedback? I said, what is right to feedback? I said, we need to give a feedback to our bosses because they are supposed to coach us and educate us. That's their job. Your KRA says they are supposed to act as our coach and mentor. But where is our platform to give feedback to them? So we introduce in the performance appraisal right to feedback. That means like a right to vote or a right to information. He triggers the right to give a feedback to his manager, and that becomes part of his appraisal process. So a lot of these things you have to look at from their point of view and recreate the content rather than my classic idea of a performance appraisal, which I learned in XLRA 30 years back, and trying to implement it. It's better off that I take it from them and trying to create that. Like bankers are learning mobility from mobile technology. People are not necessarily the bankers has to learn what is mobile. So I think that's where our sweet spot will come in.
Okay, thanks, Ravi. So interest of time, I'll take one more question if you're okay, Sagar.
Sure.
Yeah. Suraj, you told a story like a fiction. So Internet of Things, I just want to add one comment, and I want your comments on that. Is Internet of Things, it's already existing. If you go back into Unilever, I learned when I was in Britannia, implementing the Internet of Things in the sales organization. Each salesperson is given a hand device, and the ASM or area sales manager sit in his office, and if you have 20 people reporting to him, their coverage is monitored in a monitor using mobile technology. And if he's supposed to cover 10 beats or 10 shops, the area sales manager can see how he take the path and how much time he's spending in each shop and what is the productivity, and is he covering all the pattern of sales, right from SKUs and everything can be virtually monitored. The area sales manager sitting in the office, the coverage, the time spent, and the recording also. When he take the orders, the mobile automatically gets on, and the sales conversation, he can listen, and the performance coach sitting in the office can listen to the conversation and tell him what he did right and what he didn't do right. So Internet of Things and mobility combination already exist, and our ability to use in a selected area is very, very important. And I believe future performance appraisals will be more subjective and data-based and real time, and how can we capture data. I just want your comments, how we can leverage this in other functions. And
see, if you really look at HR as an example, and we talked about the Internet of Things, what it does is it gives us an entirely different option whereby using of sensors, which is not power hungry at all, so you can charge it up anywhere. You get free access to communication from different sources at the same time. And what it also does is for today, if you look at the youngsters, that Gen Y that Ravi was talking about, why are they so into the internet? Because they have the ability to manage across the relationships that they have at the same time that they're working. Now imagine if you could have feedback from what's happening in your house, feedback from what your boss is looking at, feedback from what your customers are looking at, feedback from all areas that would affect your work, simultaneously feeding into you and telling you different analytics about these things, how wonderful life would be. But at the same time, let me mention something else also. I am not a Terminator series fan, but I always think technology is always an enabler.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, I think it was wonderful. Now we'll open up to the audience. So you can introduce yourself a few seconds and ask the question. You can direct to a panel member, or you can open up to any panel member. Okay, first hand raised there. And we have solid half an hour, and we should use the entire half an hour, and multiple perspective we should get it. Yep.
Hi, good evening. My name is Raj, and I'm from a company called Quizworks, and we are into quizzing and enterprise gamification. I have a comment for Suraj and a question for you, Srikanth. So, Suraj, you might want to check out a company called OnePage that actually is a US company and that solves the exact problem that you mentioned for the HR industry. So how do you have millions of CVs and how do you find the best CVs for that particular job? It's a very interesting company, got one of the top 3 awards in HR Tech in US, so it's interesting that way. My question to you, Srikanth, is specifically in relation to technology adoption in large enterprises. You mentioned initially that when you have operations across multiple countries and you're deploying an HR Tech, and how do you get people to get aboard that particular technology is a challenge. So as HR leaders, how do you solve this problem? Is it something that you enforce, wait, push, or is there any initiatives that you can run and have people get into that particular technology, CRM systems, enterprise social networks, come what may? Yeah.
Definitely, I add my comments. Maybe Sakar, you can share from your experience the technology adoption. How will we drive it? Then I'll add my comments. Yep.
Sure. So, see, technology adoption is a classic example or a classic case study for change management, right? You design a solution and then impose on your employees, it will never work. But when you are designing a solution, you involve the employees in designing the solution. You pose the problem to them and let them come out with the solution. That is when the adoption goes high. So typically when you are going for technology solutions on any process, as Sri mentioned in the beginning also, that technology has a big component of people and process in it, right? So you have to make sure that your employees are invested in the solution that is being designed. So do employee focus groups, tell them what the problem is, tell them what you stand to lose if you persist with the problem, and they would tell you the solution. Test the solution with them, let them design the solution, and eventually when you have the solution ready, it is so very easy to implement it because they all are willing to adopt it.
Yeah. Adding to that, the experts are sitting in the panel like Murthy and Arif. In GE, we call it a methodology called a CAP, Change Acceleration Process. If you really look at that methodology, people resist because of 3 reasons, and we need to address that resistance. We call TPC, that's technical and political and cultural. So we need to really understand where the resistance comes from. Is it technical fear? That means I don't know the new technology, hence I resist because I know the old technology or not technology, so how do I learn the new technology? Hence I resist. Second one is political. That means now everybody comes to me. Now nobody comes to me because they can press up the button, get the information or move the workflow. So I get least importance in this company. That is political resistance. Then cultural resistance. That means that organization have culturally resisted any transformation because of fear of many things happening. So we need to really understand, is the resistance coming from the organization because of technical, political, or cultural, and the interventions required for all this resistance has to be different. So that's what Sakar was mentioning. Any technology implementation, early part, you need to have change management strategy and adoption strategy. And many of the organizations, when they implement technology, they have change management or program office is part of the early. Anybody want to add your experience or, yeah?
I just wanted to tell you all, technology is not an alternative for good HR practices. Keep that in mind.
Okay. Thanks for asking question. It's a very important one. Yeah, please.
Thank you. While thanking the dignitaries for sharing their lot of experiences and lot of information to the audience here, in fact, I myself introduce myself to you. I am Ramaswamy. I am from Jindal Group. In fact, I was working for a public sector with mixed experience of about 27 years in the HR and IR field and everything. I handled everything. So in that process, in fact, this HR process, whatever has been told by the audience about the integration, it is very nice, but one is the integration part, and the second is the reaching of the, say, information to the employees. In fact, many management feels that the information should not be shared.
Yeah.
So it should be confidential. Whenever if the employees come to know, a lot of issues will arise, a lot of things, they try to overboard the facilities, these are all things. But what I feel, if your information, whatever integrated information, if you are not sharing to the people, in fact, many IR issues may interrupt, I'll tell you, start entering the organizations. Because today's IT companies, they are free from it, but some of the companies are really facing the IR issues. So how they are going to reach the people, what are the techniques they are adapting so that the IR issues should not be cropped up into their organization, so that how HR concepts are taken care. That is one aspect. And one question,
Yeah, sure.
and one more question, small question. So today's younger generation, they are so much attached to the medias, whatever, Facebook, everything. In fact, they are losing touch with their own family members. And when they come from the office, immediately they sit on the computers, sit on the mobiles. So even if we try to talk to them, they don't come out. They don't interact. They are losing the relationships, in fact. Even today's, this thing, you know very well,
got it. No, interest of
husband and
time.
wife, there are many divorces are cropping up because of so many issues.
Okay,
So,
thank you. So your two questions, one is the transparency which Suraj mentioned in this one. Second one is how do you have personal touch? How do you ensure that personal touch? So any of the panel members want to take that? Suraj, yeah.
Okay,
Go ahead, then Murthy can, yeah.
I can just tell you that do not get into the rat race that if someone else has that, I also need to have that for my company. Look at internally what your requirements are, what your culture is, and then select the right tools and the data that you require. Because what will happen is if you get into this rat race of getting something that someone else has, you will be in deeper beep than you were earlier. So keep that in mind. There is not one size that fits all. If you are looking at technology to be an enabler for you, remember one thing, that it is pervasive. Every one of us will be touched by this, today or tomorrow, whether we like it or we don't like it. But like all other things, there are advantages and there are disadvantages to this technology that we look at. And we, as organizations, look at if the advantages are more for our business, let's adopt and move forward with it. If it is not, let's look at alternate sources of.
Srikanth, I just
Yeah,
want
sure.
to add
Go
one
ahead.
thing on transparency, and especially considering manufacturing IR kind of an environment. Gone are the days. So yes, we have certain not such good incidents which have happened in recent past around the IR scenarios. But gone are the days when one could control information and manage the workforce. Right now, the workforce is very smart. The kind of people who are in factory, who are working on the shop floor, they have aspirations to become managing directors and take some senior roles. I think it's extremely important for us to be transparent and direct with those employees. It's also extremely important for us to create partnership models, whether it's a union or it's employees at the floor. In our experience, we tried working traditionally with a union in one plant, and we resulted in having a disaster that we had to close that plant. In another place, we tried to engage employees, created self-directed teams, shared information, partnered with them, and that plant is one of the most successful plants we have in the country. So I think transparency is becoming more and more important. One needs to be careful in terms of how you partner, what solutions you build, but unless you work with the workforce, we will not be successful in future.
Ravi, you want to add any perspective?
Me, is it?
Yeah, Ravi.
No, I think
Okay, sure, go ahead. Yeah.
I think I kind of alluded to the creating barriers or, on firewalls, invisible firewalls. So I think it's extremely important for people to use technology to eliminate distances and not to substitute for the human connect, but to enrich the human connect. Because often we think about efficiencies and every other business advantage, and you tend to dilute that. That's what you need to probably be very conscious about.
Yeah, I definitely agree with Murthy. In wherever I worked, I definitely institutionalized that. We have employee connect programs in person. Yeah. So one-on-one, skip levels, roundtables, open houses, and I institutionalize that and ensure that my HR team get in front of employees whenever they have an opportunity. So technology cannot replace some of the personal touch initiative. That's very, very important. But there are situations when we have travel freeze, some of the global teams are sitting across, then we can use the help of video conferences and many other technology which is enabled. But you are right, technology cannot replace a lot of personal touch initiative, which is very, very important for an organization. Yeah, Ravi.
One small correction. According to sociologists, this generation is more connected than the previous generation.
Yep.
So we assume that they are not connected. That's not true. They are more socially conscious. They are more environmentally conscious. They take part in more civic activities than any other generation. Every generation felt the next generation is not doing the right thing. My father felt I spend too much time on TVs. I feel that my kids are spending too much time on mobile. They may feel that their kids are spending something else on something else. So you cannot stop the march of technology. Technology makes your life easier. My grandfather traveled in bullock cart. So I'm not supposed to, bullock cart allowed a huge amount of conversations within the family. And you can discuss like Bangalore traffic, you can literally finish off your lunch, dinner, breakfast in the car. But I don't think that's trivializing the technology. We need to learn how to use it to better it. If my son feels more, I actually give this example to a lot of people. My daughter went to study in UK some 7 years back, and after a week, I told her that, you're not sending mails to me. So she told me, Dad, mail is very old generation. I said, but I want to know what you're doing. He says, yes, I will give you access to my Facebook on one condition. I said, what is that condition? You will not like or poke or comment on my Facebook. Otherwise, you'll know everything I do. Initially, it was shocking to me because certain things she posted on the Facebook was not something I would allow it. But you learn to deal with it. And I knew more about every day of my daughter than what she could write it in an email. So I think a lot of time I keep saying, technology has to be viewed from the perspective a technology provides to a human. Not other way around saying, my old ways of doing is always relevant irrespective of what happens to the world. I think then we'll miss out the benefit of what technology provides to humans. Today we have sixth sense is much better than previous sixth sense is because of technology.
Yeah.
Today you are better off because of technology.
And you might have seen in the newspaper, in NIMANS, I did my one-year internship in NIMANS as part of my MSW. So earlier NIMANS has different cells like depression and maniac and everything. Now we have a cell of what do you call it as you get excessive addicted to internet as well as mobile devices. You can get to NIMANS and get de-addicted. So that's a separate cell there available. And there are, when I visited, 120 kids and adults are getting rehabilitated, because they get addicted to many games, internet games, and they go through rehabilitation. So that's a kind of a clinic available now, like depression centers and manic centers.